Welcome to the Marketing Lab, where we break down and deconstruct the best strategies, secrets, and hacks to grow your online business with powerful, effective marketing. Are you ready? I'm your host, Kerry, and for the past few years, I've been busy building my online empire while learning from some of the best marketing minds in the industry. Now I'm ready to reveal the lessons I've learned to help you unlock the growth you've been searching for. So buckle up and let's go. Welcome to episode 1 of the Marketing Lab podcast. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Kerry and I am super excited today. This is something I have wanted to do for a really long time, and I'm so excited to talk to you about my favorite thing, which is all kinds of marketing, mainly online marketing. And so I'm pumped about this podcast. And so I want to start off by just kind of telling you a little bit about myself, very little bit. And I'm going to talk about more later in this episode about myself. But first of all, why am I starting this podcast and who am I? So again, my name's Kerry. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've been married for 7 years and I have 2 wonderful children. And I got started in the online business realm about 2.5 years ago. I think it's always kind of been inside of me. I've always kind of had it in my blood, but at my core, I'm a marketer. That's what I've loved in this journey. I think, I got into this thinking like I want to own my own business and I was, excited about that part, but then I found out what I really loved is the marketing and really, marketing is, what drives a business in general. I mean, it's what gets the sales in a business. It's what gets leads and those leads turn into sales. And, it's really how a business is fueled and how they continue to grow. And so that's what I became passionate about. I fell in love with Facebook ads and email marketing and sales copy and all these kinds of things and sales funnels. And so that's why I'm starting this podcast as a marketing podcast. And so I'm pumped. Like, this is the tool that you need as an online entrepreneur, as a business owner, any kind of business owner. This is the tool that you need. It's marketing to grow your business. And I think that's what everybody wants. And to continue to make sales and continue to be relevant, you need great marketing. And that's why I'm starting this podcast. And so, who is this podcast for? I talked about it a little bit, but this podcast is for anybody who either wants to start selling things online, any kind of things, whether those be info products or e-commerce, or anybody that's currently in business and you're wanting to learn the latest strategies, the most impactful tips and tricks and secrets that can have a huge impact on your business. Man, this podcast is for you. And so again, I want to welcome you in and thank you so much for listening. And so, I think I've covered kind of what this podcast is and why a little bit about why I created it. I want to touch on that really quick. So you don't know kind of much about my businesses and what I do. So I got started in selling T-shirts online and a few other print-on-demand products. And I spent the first couple years of my journey building that business, that side of it in the e-commerce world, and found a lot of success with that. And recently, about 4 months ago, I started a online course where I teach people how to sell T-shirts online, and that's called Shirt School. So I have a company called Shirt School, and I also have my e-commerce businesses that I run. So that's what I do. That's kind of what I do. And so I started this podcast to kind of complement that, because as I said earlier, what I'm really passionate about is marketing. And so I want to help people market better and make more sales. And so that's why I'm starting this podcast, because, I want to have a bigger impact than I'm having now and be able to help people at all different stages of their online business journey. And so that's kind of why I created this. So we kind of jump into the bulk of this episode, and I don't anticipate this being too long, but I really just want to tell you, more kind of in depth about my backstory, how I got into this business, a little bit about my journey. And so, why is really, and that's really why you should listen to me, right? That I'm telling you why you should subscribe to this podcast, why you should rate this podcast, and why you should continue to listen. So again, my name's Kerry, and like I said, I got started about 2.5 years ago. So to go back a little bit further, I had been in retail for about 6 years. Well, actually a lot longer than that. I've been in retail kind of since I was 16. On and off. I think my first job was working at Best Buy in the like cell phones and MP3 section. That's what it was back then. It was MP3 players were the hot thing, and cell phones were just flip phones mainly. And so I got started at Best Buy and in retail, and then I guess I kind of had a knack for cell phones, and so I went and worked for a cell phone company for a little while, and then I jumped to another cell phone company, and I think so somewhere along the way I got a really good job with a certain cell phone company. I'm not gonna mention any names, but it was an entry level job, but it was what I had experience in, and I really liked the company. I had a great boss. I was doing really well, and I got when I started, like I instantly just took off. I was making tons of sales. I was doing really well as a sales rep, just in retail, again, working in a cell phone store. And I ended up moving up in the company really fast. And so I ended up staying with this company for about 6 years. And I moved up to become a store manager. And, I started at one of the slower stores, and I eventually got promoted to a bigger store and a bigger store and a bigger store until, I was running the biggest store in my market. And there were kind of two really big stores, and I bumped back and forth between those, and ended up at a store that had the biggest staff, but didn't necessarily have the biggest sales volume. And so they kind of tasked me with bringing that store back to life. And so I got there and I had a huge team. I think I had 16 plus employees, somewhere around there, and I had 2 assistant managers. And the first month into that store, we just crushed it. We did 200% to our sales goals. We were just crushing it. The second month, it was kind of the same story. I think we did 180% to our sales goals. Everybody's making a ton of money. I had kind of, over the years, I kind of built my dream team. I'd go from store to store and I'd hire, and those people would kind of follow me. And then I would promote people that I'd hired and all that stuff. So what am I getting at here? I love this job, and I loved the retail. You love cell phones. I loved being a manager and building people up and helping people achieve their goals. And man, I had so many connections and sales reps that I hired and that I worked under me, that I was able to help hit some really big financial goals and buy new cars and have families and be able to pay for that. And that's a big deal. And so I really felt like I had a huge impact in that company and on people's lives. It went beyond just making sales, of cell phones and making money for myself. It went to, helping people grow in their career and be able to buy the things that they want and support their family and that kind of thing. And I loved it. I really loved it. And I was so successful in it. And so, to kind of cap that story off, right at the end of my career there, I was kind of in line for a district manager position. I'd been applying around the country. I'm in Oklahoma, but there's really only 1 or 2 district manager positions here in Oklahoma, and so I was applying around the country. I'd applied for a district manager position in Houston and in Baton Rouge and different places, and I was having interviews. I was doing interviews, and it was going really well. I was excited. It was going to be a huge promotion for me. I'd be going from running a store to running multiple stores, and obviously more people reporting to me, and more responsibility and more money and all that stuff, and a greater impact that I can make. So I was pumped. And so I walked into work one day to my store here in Tulsa, and the company's corporate security team was there. And this is a pretty big company, and so corporate security was there, and I was terrified, and all my employees were terrified, and we were on a roll, man. We were making so much money. We're doing really great. I was at that time I was making about $80,000 a year, and it was a great career. Like, I think by most people's standards, you would say, man, you were doing really well for yourself. And we had money. The family was doing great. My wife was staying home, and it was just a really great time. And so this corporate security team showed up. I was terrified. And they started interviewing all my employees, and then of course they interviewed me, and turns out some stuff had happened, and so turns out that some of my employees were doing some shady stuff, kind of behind the scenes, and I didn't know about it, and they held me responsible for what happened because I was the one in leadership, and it's totally understandable. I don't fault the company for doing that. But anyways, I ended up getting fired, and it all happened really, really quickly within a few days. And all of a sudden, I went from making $80,000 a year in line for another promotion, being with this company for 6+ years, to what the heck am I going to do? And so, we had one child at the time. We had my son, Calvin. I think that he was probably a year and a half old at this point. Probably about a year and a half old, I think. And so I got fired, and I mean, it was a big blow. I shed a lot of tears because I put my heart and soul into that company, and I really loved it. And I really loved the people that worked for me and that I got to work with. And so the next day, was rough. The next week or so was really rough. And, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And so, I felt confident that I could go apply for other jobs, and I could probably get another job. I can maybe get another manager position with another company because I had a lot of experience, but being fired doesn't look good on your resume. And I knew that I wouldn't be making the money that I was, and that was hard because we built a lifestyle around that money that we were making. And, so, my brother-in-law, Travis, he'd been telling me for years that I needed to start a side hustle. Even with my full-time job at the cell phone company, like, he was always like, man, you need to start a side hustle. You need to have, he believes that everybody needs to have a side hustle. And so, he'd been telling me for years, and I'd never done it. And, so, I had this thought after I got fired. I was like, maybe I should go talk to Travis. Like, Travis is an online entrepreneur, basically what I am now. And he's a really good marketer, and he's who got me into marketing. And he's had a lot of success, man. He's really successful in this realm. And so, he'd been telling me for years to start a side hustle. So I was like, man, I'm gonna go talk to Travis and see what his thoughts are, what I should do. And I'd always kind of wanted to have my own business, but I just had those beliefs and those thoughts in my head, like, I could never do that. Owning a business is really hard. And I'd always had this barrier of, like, how do I even get started? How do I get a business license? How do I pay taxes? What the heck am I going to sell? Like, I'd always had those beliefs in my head that had kept me from starting a business. And at this point, I was probably 27, I guess, maybe something like that. And it still felt young. It still felt like I wasn't ready for that. And so, I went and met with Travis. I was like, Travis, what do I do? What do you think I should do, man? You're wise. I look up to you. He's a little bit older than me. And he's like, well, why don't you give this online business thing a shot? And I'm like, well, I could, which was scary because I didn't know anything about it. I didn't have much money in the bank. We had not made the best financial decisions. We were making a lot of money, but we hadn't been putting a lot of money back. We'd been spending most of it. And we had a family and everything, obviously. So those things cost money. But he's like, so I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I would love that. That's like the dream, right? And so I went back to my wife, and I told her that what we talked about, and I presented Travis a day or two later with like 3 business ideas. Like, these are 3 ideas that maybe could be something. What do you, as the expert, what do you think is the best? And he kind of looked at me, and he's looking at them all, and he's like, why don't you do this t-shirt business? The niche that I had picked was something I was really passionate about, something I knew a lot about. I felt like I was kind of an expert in the niche. And he's like, why don't you do this t-shirt business? This would be a lot of fun. It'd be super cool. So I was like, okay, let's do it. So I put the other 2 business ideas aside. I went for the t-shirt business. And basically, I'm gonna kind of trim this story down. I've been elaborating a lot, but I started the t-shirt business basically a week after being fired. Like, I moved really fast. I had like 4 designs that I was shipping from China. Really, really bad quality shirts. Not awesome. But I was overthinking it a lot. I wanted it to be perfect. And Travis was like, no, just start, like, just get started. And that's a huge lesson that I'm going to talk a lot more about here on the podcast. Recently I've been, I don't want to elaborate on this too much today, but recently I've just been really mulling over this idea of done is the new perfect. Done is better than perfect. And just getting out there and starting and doing something is what you need to do, whether you're new or whether you have a business and you're trying to start a new idea, a new funnel, a new ad, a new another business, man, you have to go out there and start, and it doesn't have to be perfect, because trying to make things perfect will keep you from going out and doing it. And so Travis pushed me to just get something up, even if it's horrible shirts from China. And so literally a week after I was fired, I started a business. And I didn't have any of the legal stuff figured out, nothing. I set up a Shopify store. I put these 3 or 4 shirts on there from China, 6 weeks, 8 weeks shipping time. And I just went for it. And Travis is a Facebook ads guy. He's a marketing guy. And he's like, man, you need to do some Facebook ads. And so I had no idea what I was doing at all. But I went out there and I somehow figured out how to launch a Facebook ad. And the craziest thing happened. You ready for this? I got a sale. I got a sale actually really quickly, like within the next day, and I started to get more and more sales. But I do want to say something real quick. In the midst of this happening, so about a week after me and Fire launching this business, my wife also tells me that we're pregnant with our second child. So the timeline, I got fired, decided I was going to not go back to work, so not have a steady income. And then my wife finds out we're pregnant. So this is pretty scary. Put yourself in that position. Maybe you've been in that position. Maybe you're in that position right now. Who knows? But, that's scary. Like, we have no income. I'm going to go start a new business, which I think, most people, when you think about starting a new business, now this isn't always true, but when you think about starting a new business, you think you got to have money to start a new business. And so I was putting some money into it, not a huge amount because it's online and I was drop shipping and everything. And that's a story for another time. But this is scary, right? Like, we don't know if this business is going to be successful. I'm trying to think of the statistic, but I think it's like 85% or 90% of online business startups fail in the first 90 days and they shut down. So the odds were not in my favor. And so somehow, by the grace of God, I got a sale like almost right away. And the business started to grow. I started to get more sales. It was crazy. And I kept going back to Travis for mentorship. I kept going back and learning more. And I was kind of, man, I was loving it. Like I was engulfed in this and I was learning. I knew nothing to start and I was learning a ton just by trial and error. But I was burning a lot of money and, all kinds of stuff. So we weren't making a ton of money, but we were getting some sales. And the craziest thing happened. It started to stop. It stopped working. The business, we kind of hit a wall in the first month or two. And, I really thought like I had no idea what to expect. So when I started getting some sales, I thought I'm on my way to the big time. Like this is going to be what I do for the rest of my life. I'm going to have this t-shirt business and, it's going to be awesome. And stuff started to not work, stuff started to fall apart and my Facebook ad stopped working and I had no idea what to do. Like I knew so little. And when the business started to fail, I had no idea what changes to make, what to do at all. If I had known then what I know now, obviously it would have been different. I know so much now after doing it for years, but so the business started to fail. Nothing was working. I couldn't figure things out. I was getting so many customer emails, and complaints on social media and all kinds of stuff because, turns out the shirts, like I said earlier, they're horrible quality. They're taking 6-8 weeks to get there. They didn't fit right at all. Like you'd get them and they'd be too small because they were like China sizes. And then of course, when you wash them, they would shrink up even more. It's like, they were horrible. Like it must have been the worst cotton ever known to man, that these shirts were made out of. But, so you get the idea, right? So, things got really, really dark and really bad in my life and for my family. And so my wife was pregnant. If you guys, if you're a female out there, you know what it's like in the first, and you've been pregnant before, you know what it's like in that first trimester. If you're a male out there, if you've been married or you have a significant other that has had a child, been pregnant, man, that first trimester is rough. Let me tell you what, it's extremely rough on the wife, and it's pretty rough on the guy too, on the husband. And so it was a rough time. And on top of that, everything everything in our house started to break, like everything. Like, when it rains, it pours. You've heard that saying, and I'm telling you, man, I've never been through a season like that in my life, because we had no income, because my wife wasn't working. We had everything in our house breaking. I mean, from the dishwasher to the dryer to, our back room. We had a back room, the back part of our bedroom. We have this extra room, which is our office now, most of the time. But it was flooding. It was just like, it's crazy. It was flooding every time it rains, and it rains quite a bit here in Oklahoma. And it was just one thing after another. We had no money. We had credit cards. Luckily, we had good credit, so we were just putting a ton of stuff on credit cards, building up debt, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And I couldn't figure out how to get out of it. And things got really, like I said, things got really dark. Things got really rough. I mean, it was hard time. And but another lesson here, and I'm sure I'll talk more about this on the podcast, is like I just kept going. Like you can't quit. Obviously, there's no quit button in life. And as bills piled up and we got behind on things, and I just kept going. I never stopped trying. And yes, I went back to work. Like I went and drove for Uber and Lyft, and I was applying for jobs and all this stuff. I was trying I was doing anything to make money for my family, but I never gave up on my business. I never gave up on my dreams of owning my own business and making money online. I never gave up on that. No matter what I had to do to make the money that I needed, I never gave up on my dream. And so I continued trucking, and eventually, with the help of not only Travis, who's my mentor, my coach, but I invested in online courses, I invested in training, I read books, all that kind of stuff, and I started to learn the skills that I needed to figure it out. And again, another lesson to be learned here from this story. I mean, there's so much that I learned in this story, but man, investing in yourself with online training or books or courses, that kind of thing, a lot of people don't see the value in that, but I'm telling you, that is probably number one to, I would attribute to my success in everything that I've done. The more I've invested in myself, the more results I've got. They literally go hand in hand. I'll invest in training and new knowledge, and I most of the time instantly see more results, because I take what I learned and I applied it. And that's what I did, right? Like I sought out the coaching, the training, the courses, all that kind of stuff, the books, to learn what I needed to learn, even while doing things on the side to make money to provide for my family. And, I ended up figuring this thing out and building my T-shirt business back up and making money with my T-shirt business and being able to go back into it full time and have some incredible results. As I learned more and learned more, I kept building. I'd run into walls, but I kept trying. And man, I've achieved some incredible things in the e-commerce space and in my T-shirt businesses. I've started subscription businesses and all kinds of stuff and had so much success. And I just am so thankful, one, to my wife for continuing to support me, even when, we might go through long extended periods of times, rough times in our finances, man, continuing to support me and believe in me that I could do this, that I can make this work and actually make a full-time income and be able to support our family. And, thankful just that I kept pushing, that I didn't quit. And, I encourage you out there, if you've had an online business and you failed, if you're failing right now, if you want to start an online business, you're going to run into problems, but you can't quit. You got to keep going, even if you have to go out and get a full-time job again. Even if you've seen success and it's you've hit a wall, you have to keep going, and that's my encouragement for you. And so, moving forward, I did my T-shirt business for a few years, and recently I've started my online course called Shirt School, and I've developed a system around what I learned over the last few years of running a T-shirt business, and now I'm teaching people how to use that system to make money themselves and to make shirt sales themselves and other print-on-demand products. And man, it's just been unbelievable. And again, I've learned a whole new skill set in marketing. I've learned about webinars and sales funnels and a different kind of Facebook ads and different strategies. And I'll tell you what, being in the online course space has taught me the most is in my mindset. My mindset has completely changed has grown, and I just look at this online business so differently now, and I've developed skills that I can go out and make money quickly when I need it, and it's like a faucet. You turn it on and turn it off, and so, man, it's just been awesome. So really, really thankful for the students I have inside my Shirt School course, inside the community and our Facebook group. And it's just been awesome. And so that's kind of how I want to wrap this episode up, man. Thank you for listening again. This has been awesome. Real quick, if you want to learn how to start a t-shirt business, or you have a t-shirt business or a print-on-demand business and you need more sales, you're trying to figure out how to get over the hump, I want you to head over to shirtschool.com. And you basically just put in your email there, and I have about an hour and 15 minute completely 100% free web class where I teach you all about the Shirt School system. And it's just it's an on-demand free web class. You can go watch it right now at shirtschool.com. And man, it's awesome. At the end of that training, I'll give you an opportunity to join the Shirt School family and to get the full course and to learn the in-depth system that I've developed. And so I encourage you to do that. Go over there and check it out at shirtschool.com. You can follow me on social media at Kerry Egler on Instagram. I think it's Kerry Egler 2 on Facebook. And I'm also on YouTube. So thank you guys for joining, and we will talk to you in episode 2.